Hello guys, and welcome to this new tutorial. This one is about skin retouching inside of Fusion, and I'm gonna use a couple of my latest tools. One would be an upgrade of my previous skin corrector macro, and the other one will be a tool called spot remover. Both of them I'm going to submit to Reactor very soon. So the first thing that I want to do is to set up a linear workflow. So I'm going to use a gamut node and set the source space to rec 709 and remove the gamma. So as you can see, our image has become very dark. Now I can enable the lookup table for the viewer, select the gamut viewer LUT, and in the output space select rec 709 and predivide post multiply. So now that our workflow has been linearized, I can start what I'm going to do with this image. As you can see here, I have a couple of imperfections on her face which I want to get rid of. Maybe also this portion here, but I don't know, we'll see. Let's start with these two here. And what I'm going to use is a plugin which is Mocha Pro. The Mocha Pro plugin works perfectly inside of Fusion. So let's launch the Mocha UI. And first off, let's set the viewer preferences. Since we're working linear, let's select this scene linear here and the display to rec 709. Now this footage is 432 frames long, but I think we just need 100 frames. Let's start and track our footage here. So as you can see, we have these little hair here, and out of laziness I'm going to track around that. Otherwise I'd have to mask it separately, but you know, this, I'm sure this is gonna work perfectly. So let's track forward and see what happens. Okay, let's have a look at our track. It seems to be very solid. Yeah, seems to be perfect. So let's add our planar surface, and I'd like to set the center of my planar surface to my imperfection, so I can better see if my track stays in place the whole time. Yeah, maybe something like that is okay. So let's check our tracking. It seems to be perfectly in place. Maybe add some more of her face here. Okay, now what we have to do is just to export tracking data, copy to clipboard and close and save Mocha. Now we can paste our tracker inside of Fusion, and then what we have to do here is a little bit of a trick, and we have to pipe both the background and the foreground inside of our tracker. So now if we move to the operation tab here and select the perspective positioning, in the merge select foreground only. So now that we have our footage stabilized, we can either paint or, for example, use our spot remover macro. So the spot remover actually works very similarly to the healing brush inside of Photoshop. Let me show you an example here. This is the destination and this is the source of our clone. And if I view the spot remover, as you can see, our source is now in the hair, and what we are cloning here is the just the texture and not the color. So if we want to remove this imperfection, what we have to do is just select a different portion of our skin here, and maybe add a little bit of soft edge, and maybe play a little bit with the softness and the detail. We also have this detail mix, which can help blending our clone. As you can see, we have a pretty good result. Let me show you the before and after, and this looks very nice to me. So what I'm gonna do is add a pipe router and add another spot remover, and I'm gonna work in parallel here, and I'm gonna to explain it why in just a few seconds. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. Let's view the second spot remover, and maybe, yeah, we can add a little bit of soft edge and add some softness here. Let's remove our... Yeah, I think something like that is looks very nice. Let's see the before and let's see the after. Yeah, seems pretty nice to me. Maybe we can dial a little bit back some of the details and maybe just a little bit less blending. So yeah, I think is really nice. So why I'm working in parallel here, the reason is when you use this stabilized footage technique, when you apply the distortion back, there's some filtering going on, and so you want to avoid to have all this portion of the image to be filtered. That would mean to have a lot of loss in quality. So inside of the spot remover you have this paint only checkbox, which will be rendering only the correction. So now we can add a merge node and merge both the spot removers into one, and now we can copy our tracker and connect it after our spot remover. So now we can go back into our tracker, move into the operation tab and select corner positioning. So now if I merge the correction on top, as you can see, we have removed both of the imperfections. So let's give a quick preview, and as you can see, it works very nicely. So maybe we can get rid of this vein here. Let's go back into Mocha. So now that we are back in Mocha, we can select this portion of our skin here and maybe do something like so. Okay, so now let's check our tracking. And it seems to be pretty solid. So now we can add our planar surface, and as before, just add a bunch of skin here. Okay, so export tracking data, copy to clipboard, close and save. So back into Fusion, we can paste our tracker again, and then we can maybe do something like this and move this a little bit further. Yeah, and again into the tracker, select perspective positioning and foreground only, and again we have this stabilized version of our footage. So again, what I'm gonna do is add a spot remover, and I'm going to do something like so. So now keep in mind that we have two angles. This angle is affecting just the destination. So what I suggest you to do to keep things organized is to copy this value and paste it into the offset angle, and in this case it's negative, and just make it positive. So now if we look at our result, we can add a little bit of soft edge, and maybe now we can scale it up so we don't get things in a way, and maybe add a little bit of softness and just a touch bit of details, and maybe something like so. I think it's good enough. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to select paint only and copy and paste my tracker again. Oops, sorry. And inside of the tracker, select the corner positioning. So now I can actually bring this back and add a merge tool here. So I have all of my correction in place. So let's have a look at the before and after. Before and after. I think this one is a little bit too much. Yeah, I think something like that, it's okay. Yeah, before and after. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do next, even if this particular footage doesn't really need it, because her skin is really good, but since we are doing a tutorial, let's do it anyway. Let's go back into Mocha and let's disable these two layers. Okay, I think it's looking good. So now maybe we can add another tiny selection here. Yeah, I think it's good enough. So we can select all of our shapes and export shape data, copy to clipboard and close and save. And if I paste now, it's gonna be perfect. Right, so now all I have to do is to connect all of these shapes, and maybe I can soften the edge of all of those selections, and now add a skin corrector. And as you can see from the previous version, we have a new skin extension here, a new skin extension page, and we have this depth control. In this case, since I'm working in float, there's no need to change the depth of my flow, but if you're working in 8-bit integer or 16-bit integer, you have to select float 16 or float 32, otherwise the skin corrector won't work correctly. If I move to the skin corrector tab, as you can see, I have the same old controls plus these new controls. This one in particular lets you change the overlay for your selection. So yeah, I think the skin selection itself is pretty nice. The skin detail had a very big update, so as you can see now I can select very nicely what I want to exclude from my selection, and I think this one works perfectly. Yeah, something like so I think would be perfect. And the skin selection, what is the skin selection? Basically I'm just using the skin part of the image, the one that's selected, and I'm extending it so that when you increase the skin softness you won't get any spill color from the rest of the image. Remember to keep an eye on that. So we can move into the final result, and we can play a little bit with softness, maybe just a touch more detail, and we can also mix these up a little bit. Maybe I can just make it a little bit less, yeah, something like so. Yeah, I think this looks very nice. Something else that we can do actually is to work a little bit on her teeth. So let's add a selection over her teeth. So now I just have to export the shape data, copy to clipboard, close and save. Now back into Fusion, I can just paste my mask. Let's add a color corrector here, and let's see what happens if I, for example, use the gamma. As you can see, I'm brightening everything. Let's say I want to make the teeth a little bit wider, I could desaturate, but I would desaturate everything in my selection. So what I'm gonna do is actually set a wireless node and link my source footage. And now I can add a Luma here. And let's go into the Luma here. Let's move in the alpha channel. And let's search for the best contrast within the channels. Yeah, I think something like so, it's okay. So now I'm gonna add a bitmap node and connect the Luma here inside of the bitmap, and I'm going to connect the bitmap to the polygon. So what I have to do now is to multiply my selection, and that's what I end up with. Yeah, something like so. So as you can see now we have only our teeth selected, and we can go back to our color corrector. Okay, so let's have a look at the before and after. This is our before and this is our after. maybe we could also get rid of some of these imperfections here, but I mean, for this tutorial I think we have a good enough result. One small note when using the spot remover, having a bunch of spot remover can make your comp very slow, so be careful on that. Maybe you can set up breakouts, and instead of having all computed at once. Both of those tools will be available on Reactor very soon. When downloading, you would find a donation button. Feel free to support me if you want. I suggest you to support everyone who's been submitting to Reactor and support Visa Class and Pirates of Confusion. I think the community around Fusion is what makes Fusion great. So keep that in mind. I think this is a wrap for me. I hope you like this one. I hope you enjoyed this. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.